Are you awake? Only, well, what, 9:20 after 9. How many have taken my religion class? One person. Okay, I know the nursing students don't really get much electives, you know. So I teach the world religion class. I'm Dr. Ryan. Taught it for 18 years, and I've been in hospice 28 years. Imagine I'm still around. But talk to you a little bit about, Lydia covered, I guess, introductory stuff and the hospice nursing aspects and things like that. But I want to talk to you really about the spiritual aspects. Every one of us are a spiritual person. Now, there are some that are religious, more religious than anything, and then there are those that are kind of semi-religious, and then there are those that are agnostic, and then there are those that maybe are practicing another religion other than maybe Christianity. But irregardless, we connect with every patient. I know in situations where I have had patients that have been Hindu or Buddhist, I've always had, or Islamic, I've always had some people around them with a spiritual nature that can minister to them where I'm not going to be effective. I may be able to talk some of their lingo, but I'm not going to be as effective. So, and they want somebody from their own faith background and all that. How many of you, I don't know if Lydia asked this, but how many of you have had an experience with hospice? Oh, a lot of you. Okay. And it was good. Okay. And it may not have seemed good at the time, but I think in retrospect you begin to say, oh, that's why that happened. And that's why grandma, grandpa, mom or dad, or maybe even a sibling for some of you have passed away with hospice services. Let's cut right to the chase. What do you think happens when a person dies? Oh boy, if you don't know,
That's a tough crowd.
If you don't know what happens when a person dies.
Now he's going to preach, guys.
No.
Thanks a lot.
Now, clinically, I think this is still true. Clinically, you're not dead until your brain waves stop. But we always, we listen to the heart, the lungs aren't working, and we pronounce them dead. But clinically, you're not dead until, by Kentucky statutes, you're not dead until the brain waves stop. And I guess they're stopped, of course, when you quit breathing and your heart quits pumping. So, but what happens? All right, let's back up another step. Working with the assumption that you believe you have a soul in your body, or a spirit in your body. Most of you would agree with that, right? Okay. So does that soul or spirit leave the body when you die?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's assume that. Do you think that you can see the soul or spirit leaving the body with our eyes?
No.
No. Okay.
Usually.
No. However, I will say this, and I've been with hundreds of deaths, but
Thousands.
no, hundreds, not, well, maybe over 1,000. I was trying to figure out how many patients I've been able to work with, and it's somewhere in the 10,000 range. Yeah. But anyway, there has been times where I have seen a wave movement like this at the top of the head. Now that's not real often, and more than a dozen times, but I have seen a noticeable wave movement out of the top of the head. Now, the feeling is that when a person dies, if they're smiling, that they've gone to heaven, and if they're frowning, maybe they didn't do so well. That's a misconception. Funeral homes can make you look good, and they want you to look good. But anyway, I do believe that the spirit leaves our body up here. Through the top of the head, maybe? I don't know. Now, where does it, well, if it left, then it had to be somewhere in us. And that's the hard part to figure out. Because I don't know where it would be. Maybe in our head. Maybe in this cranial area here. Or not cranial, but in your chest area. But I do believe that there is a spirit that leaves the body. So, what does it take for that spirit to go? What might happen that would allow that spirit to leave? Anybody? You're all quiet. Well, if it's your, pick it on you, if your grandma is laying here and she is dying, what kind thing could you do to tell her, to talk to her? What kind of thing could you do to help her in her dying? She's still listening, she's still here.
Just to let her know that I'd be okay, and maybe thank her for everything she's done for me, some of the memories that she and I have made together, and that maybe I could carry on with my kids, and that her memory would never die. I'd always carry her with me.
Good. Yeah. Something else that you could do. Your loved one's laying there dying. They're still hearing, because the hearing's the last sense you lose. But what else? Yes.
Give them permission to.
There, that's what I was looking for. Give them permission. Now, why is it important you give permission to her?
It seems like a lot of people hang on because they feel like their loved ones aren't ready.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Okay, so when you give her permission, it's helping her to say, she's okay, I can go on. Okay, I think that's a big part of it. But I think a big part as well is the fact that you can say it. Is that you can say it, it's okay, I love you, Grandma, don't hang around for me, I'll be okay, and it's okay to go on. Now, what we see oftentimes, and we see this a lot up in the hospital, in the 200 or so patients that we cover in the hospital every year in our 6-bed unit, we see people do that, and then they kind of wait. It's supposed to happen like, within the next hour, and it doesn't. So the next day, and they're still riding this roller coaster up and down because they said, we've done everything we know how to do. And of course, a part of that becomes who needs to come say goodbye, who hasn't been able to be here, who's coming, what are we waiting for? Is this an anniversary? Is this a birthday? We don't want to die on a birthday. We don't want to die on Christmas. Anyway, my wife's family, her people die at Thanksgiving, too, Thanksgiving. Anyway, at that time, like this week. So, anyway, I do believe there's a spirit within all of us, if you don't believe that. And I believe it's a spirit that connects with the spiritual part of us and what we believe. Now, I happen to be, of course, Christian. I happen to be ordained minister, chaplain, did my training at UK Medical Center, all of that stuff, just like for a major hospital. But I do believe it's important that a person be comfortable spiritually so that they can let go. And sometimes, and it's such a disservice to me, is when I come in and here's this person who is dying, and a family member comes up and grabs me by the arm and says, "You got to get them saved right now because they haven't, and they're not ready to go." And that's like, I can't do that. God can do that if they place their faith in God and they pray and all of that. But I can't do that, and I don't feel that pressure to feel like everybody has to be saved, because everybody lives their own life, everybody makes their own choices, and everybody makes decisions that will affect their lives. I have a fellow I saw yesterday who I really come to really like. And there's a spiritual battle that goes on with people. And this fellow is a COPDer. He could be around for a while with us. He has some heart problems. He's had cranial surgery and an implant of a pump in his back. And he could be with us for a while. And anyway, he was having these nightmarish experiences where these black things were coming to him. This wasn't just back a few weeks ago, Halloween. This was back. And his wife said she felt this evilness in their bedroom. And so they had a church group come in and cast out whatever it was. And anyway, we talked about it, we prayed about it and everything with him. And then finally, he came to a place that he said, you know, he said, I've never really made my life a commitment in my life to Jesus, not the way I should have. And so he did that, and wow, you don't always see anything other than a rational change, you know, like I've done this now and I feel better. But this guy really changed. I have no inkling that he hasn't. And yesterday he was just bubbly and positive. And it's also taken away some of the fears they had of dying. I would say the way I have approached fears of dying is I used to think you got to get rid of all your fears, then you can die peacefully. I don't necessarily think that way anymore. I think sometimes some of the fears are good, because I tell people if you have fears, great, because those are natural. Now, what might be, would you think, some fears of dying? As you're laying there and you know you're dying, what might be some fears that would be in your head?
What's gonna happen next?
What's going to happen next? I haven't experienced this before. Yeah, what else?
Is it gonna be painful?
Is it going to be painful? Yes. Yeah, I don't want pain. Here's another one that you might not really think of at your age. I don't want to leave my loved ones with these medical bills that I've piled up and leave them with debts and problems like that. What else might be a fear?
Some might be scared to know where they're going.
Yeah, might not know where I'm going or where I'm headed. What about simple things like fear of being alone? I don't want to die alone. What about just, and this is a fear you might not even think of, is that some people don't want a certain person next to them when they die. And it can be a spouse. They'll wait until seemingly they wait until they've left and gone and made a sandwich and got a drink or something, and then when they come back, they're gone. That happens really often in the homes. So other fears, well, people don't really know what it's going to be like when they die. They don't want to linger. That's another one. They don't want to linger a long time because they don't want to experience that side of life. But it's normal. It's normal to have fears, and fears of dying and things like that. Okay, I'm going to tell you a few stories, but before I do, any questions? I didn't think of any questions. You'd like to hear the stories.